Hello my squishies! Welcome to the speed run of the Ben Nevis felt along I did last week. This is a heavily sped up version. If you want to see the full hour-long felt along, the link will be in the description below. So first of all, pop your felting mat down on the table. I've got a foam one here. Then you're going to grab your felting needle. These are long, sharp and barbed. Please do not stab yourself with them. You can use a tool to hold them if you like. This is a little wooden one that I sometimes use. But you don't have to. You can just hold the needles in your hand, and you can hold multiple ones at the same time if you want to. Now let's look at the roving or tops that you're going to use for felting. We want to pull off just tiny bits at a time, but to do that you've got to make sure it's not twisted or you're holding your hands too close together to pull out just those little bits of fibre. And what we're felting onto is pre-felt. Drawn the picture on for you here, make it nice and easy. And the last thing you'll need is a frame to mount your beautiful picture in. So let's get started. The first one you're going to take is the sky blue, and we're going to thinly pull it out and place it in the areas you want the sky to be. To felt the blue onto the backing, you're going to take the needle felting needle, holding it vertically, you're going to stab up and down in one smooth movement. You don't want to bend the needle at all. If you bend it as you're going in or out, you might snap it. Needle snapping is quite common. When you do snap a needle, please dispose of it carefully. It's a really good idea to count your needles in and out at the beginning of each session. As you're felting, it's a really good idea every so often pull the backing off the mat, because you'll see that as you're felting the fibres, they start sticking into the foam, and you know your felting's working when you can see them sticking through the back. It's quite fun. The pre-felt that we're using has got a bit of stretch in it at the moment, but as you're felting, that will start to tighten up and you'll feel it getting firmer and firmer. Now I'm going to move on to the hills in the background. To get the nice colour, I've taken 3 different browns and gently teased them together with my hands before felting them in. I'm starting at the back and working forward with the hills so I can lay the fibres on top of each other. I'm also starting with the dark brown before putting the snow on top so that you get a nice depth to the snow. You can see how little white I've used to make the snow. Less really is more with needle felting. If you don't like what you've put down, just pull it off. As one of the joys of needle felting is that you can just grab it, pull it off and refelt it wherever you like. The direction you lay the fibres down can also have an effect on the design, whether they're parallel, smooshed up, running in waves. Just have a play about with what kind of effect you want in the different areas. Now we're going to start working on the Ben. So taking the mid brown, we're going to work this time from the bottom up, filling in from the waterline to about 1/3 up the Ben with this mid brown. At the moment we're not felting anything in too well, we're just laying the colours down where we want them to go. We'll go back later on, once all the colours are in place, and felt it in really well so it's nice and secure. You can see I'm now taking the white for the hills, and I'm letting the ends of the individual hairs be seen. And the way I'm laying them down on top of the brown makes that lovely effect, like the snow is gently fading out down the hill. Just felting that bit in and adding more, working my way along the hill. Here I'm folding it double, so I get double the amount of ends coming down on top of the brown. As I said before, if you don't like something you've put down, you can pick it up again. So here I'm picking up some of the snow to put a little bit more brown underneath because I felt it hasn't gone up quite high enough. Nothing in felting is final, which is lovely. You can always just take it off and start again. Now I'm going to add a bit of shadow into the snow, so I'm taking the lightest grey and just putting that shadow at the edge where the very front hill will be put in a second. it is just the tiniest amount. I'm going to say it again, less is more with needle felting. And once that's all felted in, we're going to go to that front hill. Though it is shorter, I have been working from back to front in these hills. Laying that snow down, again, using the ends of the fibres to go over the brown and give it that lovely mottled effect that you get at this time of year. Now that we've been felting for a wee while, it's a good idea to pull it off the mat again and give it a wee smoosh, see how it's looking. I like to rub on the surface every so often. It helps hide the needle holes and lets you see if there's any bits that aren't quite felted in right. Now, a little bit more grey shadow just on that front side of the bend, just to make the snow not quite perfect, because nothing's perfect. Again, just a tiny, tiny amount we're putting here. Less is so much more. So now it's time to layer a little bit more shadow on the hill. I'm going to use the darkest brown to do a light line where the hill meets the water. And on top of that, the lightest brown, fade it in slightly. It's really nice building up colours. Now it's time for the water. We're just going to fill in the whole of the water area with the sky blue. It's a really good idea to check every so often how your picture looks in the frame. Loosen off the screw on the outer ring and taking the felt off the mat and using a hard surface, try fitting it over the frame and see what your design looks like so far. Don't worry about these edges, we'll trim them off later, but it's better to have more colour over the edge at this point than having gaps. So now it's time to add some depth and reflections into the water. We're going to start with a thin strip of the white fibre just where the water meets the hills. So reflecting what you see up top, we're going to start with brown and then work our way down to the white again. Trying to keep it parallel with the horizon, but letting little waves and ripples go into the darker colours that are on top of the water. As you're felting along, it is always a good idea to step back and look at your project from different angles, and remember and keep putting that frame over the top to see how it's looking. When I'm adding the white here, I'm not only adding it where it would be in the reflection, but in other parts of the water as well, just to make those little waves and white caps on the loch. So now the design is laid down, I'm happy with the proportions, the way it's looking, it's time to fix it down. So I'm going to take 3 needles together in my hand and felt over the whole thing continuously. Do this until you're happy with how felted it is. So now I'm going to leave you with the final touches that I finished off this design with. If you want to give this a go yourself, the kit is online, www.caledonianwool.com. I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to my YouTube channel and followed me on all the social medias. Links are in the description below. Oh no. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. Happy felting!